Hey Aries, welcome to September 2020. Whew, this month I am pulling archetypes as I did last month, and this month I got for you the heart. So the heart is the heart, and it's this card talked about how easy it is in this day and age to get disconnected from our hearts and to think about the heart as a place we can go to. So and it's like maybe like kind of think about the heart as like a state of mind or a state of feeling, a state of kind of being compassionate, being connected to our feelings. So I'm gonna pull cards, but I definitely also, of course, like think about like the heart chakra with this and how that. All right, I got a stack. Let's see what we got. We got the Two of Pentacles in reverse. We got the Fool in reverse. We got the Strength card. Ten of Wands in reverse. The Chariot. The Devil. The Magician. And the Hanged One. So, I feel for you, Aries, at the top of this month, September, we got the Two of Pentacles. And the Two of Pentacles is a card about balance. But for me, I think of this balance being about our internal balance. So, heart and mind, right? And with it being in reverse, I just feel like there is a little bit of that being out of balance. And since the heart showed up, I feel like it's kind of a message and an invitation to step back into your heart. And so I wonder if perhaps you've been putting like mind over heart a little bit, right? Like that you're thinking a lot and that you're kind of stuck in your head about things and that you're not necessarily following your heart. And you have the opportunity to, for sure. It's like here, it's like it wants you to follow it. It wants you. And we got Strength, which I think also has a lot to do with the heart. And I'll get to that. But especially with the Devil, I think the Devil is a card with many meanings at times. But here in this reading, as it's appearing for you, I sort of feel like there is something that you are chaining yourself to for whatever reason. It could be protecting your heart, right? Like you might be, because this is vulnerability, and you might be kind of not in your heart space at the top of the month because, again, there's like a disconnect from it, and there's the putting your mind over your heart, and there's maybe like a lack of self-trust, and there's kind of a keeping yourself chained to something with the Devil, these chains, this kind of restriction, this kind of thing it's the Devil, like I think that with the heart, I keep harping on vulnerability, but like, okay, this is what I'm gonna say. In this particular deck, it's like this boat, but it gives me very, very strong Twin Peaks vibes, particularly the scene where Cooper and Annie are on the lake and they have like the most intimate, like romantic, sweet kind of like date on the lake, and it's just like really adorable and very like they're really like hardcore connecting. But of course, in the background in that scene, there's like this creepy guy like lurking who's like gonna like fuck everything up. And if we're thinking about Twin Peaks as like the psyche, well then it's like it doesn't feel safe to be in the heart because it feels like there might be this outside force waiting to kind of like bring it all down, right? And so the Devil, is like, it's better not to love at all. It's better not to risk kind of having that kind of connection or caring about things, because when I care about things, when I let my heart lead the way, I set myself up for potential disappointment or heartbreak, right? and the heart is like kind of like this, it feels fragile, right? The heart is very strong, but also because the heart is so special, it can be something that we become like overprotective of. And so with the devil appearing, what I'm trying to say is that maybe part of the reason why you aren't living in your heart or leading from your heart is because that feels safer. It feels safer to kind of, it's like in Moulin, I like to bring up movies because that's the kind of person I am, but like in Moulin Rouge, when Christian is trying to like get with Satine, and she's like, I can't fall in love, and he's like, can't fall in love, that's terrible, and she's like, no, living on the streets, that's terrible, and he's like, no, and then she's like, I can't fall in love with anyone, blah blah blah. Like, she's just trying to protect herself, she's trying to protect her heart, but that's the devil she knows, right? The underworld. It's the not loving, the not kind of letting that connection in, the not giving a shit about things, because the heart doesn't have to be about romance. The heart can just be what you care about. It can be like the card mentions, like pets or kids, or maybe like just anything that you feel passionately about and connected to, that you like, that's important to you. I think you're just in September really being called to confront this devil. The devil being the ways you are kind of self-sabotaging, the ways that you are not risking anything by holding back so much, the ways that you're kind of staying in a comfort zone, or like not visiting the place in your heart, because in a way this doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel safe to be in your heart, but really weirdly, the place you're in, not being in your heart, is less safe. It's better to leave the devil, you know. It's like you're staying stuck in the cage because the cage feels safe, but the cage is not safe, and it's definitely no safer than taking that risk. And I mean, here we got the Fool in reverse, and I just feel like this is kind of repeating what I'm saying, but it's like you're not taking a leap of faith. You're kind of holding yourself back. There's you just not wanting to go there. Maybe this is like you not wanting to admit something that's really important to you and that it matters. Kind of like, I don't know, like, this could be anything. This is just something that is like important to you, that matters a lot, that you feel like a deep soul purpose connection to, something that is, you know, it's you just not going for what is really important for you, or like holding yourself back from it, or not wanting to admit how much it matters, because admitting how much it matters to you then puts you in a position where you can like be really disappointed. I'm reading a book, The Becoming Supernatural. I don't know. I think sometimes that stuff is a little bit, I don't know. But like in the book, it talked about how the heart, literally, like the physical organ, has its own electromagnetic field, such that like when people got heart transplants, they started like liking the foods of the previous recipient, like that donated the heart. And so it's like, I guess it's just thinking about with this heart energy, that the heart is not just like an idea, but it's like a literal actual energy within us, like on a scientific level, where this organ, our heart, has a different perception and sense of things, and like it's where you store a lot of information that your mind does not. And it's the one you really should be leading from, but it doesn't make as much conscious sense because it's not the thinking analytical part of you. It's the felt sense of like your experience of life. And so I just think Okay. So anyway, I just think that like what I am trying to say in kind of so many words is that you know what's important, you know, it's just there's so much of you holding back from what you know you want because you're scared. But it's scarier not to be in this place of like trusting your heart. So you really have to do a lot of like heart healing and reconnecting with this part of you, your heart. Great. I've been trying to do this myself. Okay, we got the Magician, the Hanged One, the Ten of Wands reverse, the Chariot, and Strength. Strength to me says at some point you're getting there. You're like being more compassionate with yourself. You're listening to your heart, and I feel like listening to your heart can literally be you like kind of putting your hand on your heart and just like kind of like asking the question and then not trying to think an answer, just kind of like sitting with that question. Like, what is it that I really want? Well, okay. I'm gonna let it come to me. I'm just gonna try to feel into that. I'm gonna, because like with also the Lion, its strength, the Lion is I think to me really represents compassion, and part of her like part of like her having strength is that she's like not tamed the lion, but she's like had like developed like a compassionate and really collaborative relationship with the lion. So our I'm like, this is such a weird reading and I'm channeling, so I mean if it's resonating with you, great. If not, I guess you probably already tuned out. But I think with this, it's really like redeveloping the connection with understanding that your heart is its own intelligence and its own kind of, and like it's like its own, like the Magician. It's like I keep like coming back to that, like I keep coming, sorry, it got paused. I keep coming back to this idea of like an electromagnetic field within you that's coming from your heart, that your heart is storing. This is something I'm kind of just going off, but like I was thinking about like one of the qualities I say I want in a partner is that they're funny, but I'm like, I think my mind is the one that wants someone who's funny. Like my heart really cares more about stability and like consistency, right? Like that's what the heart wants. The mind wants the laughs. The heart wants the kind of like trust and the loyalty. I was talking about the Lion and strength, and I was talking about how the lions can be violent, right? But lions are typically pretty gentle creatures. They're not violent for the sake of violence. They really only hunt to eat. They're not like out for, like, they're not bloodthirsty animals, even if they've gotten a bad rap for that. But a lion will protect itself. And I think that's like, to bring it back to the heart, maybe about like getting disconnected, I kind of went off on that weird like Twin Peaks reference. But I think that because the heart is a vulnerable space, the heart, when it's in danger, can like lash out like a lion. Like I know that for me, in instances of my life when I felt like really like under attack, like I could like feel my heart like jumping out of my chest, right? Like my heart is really like sensitive and feels that kind of aggression, and to me that's the lion, right? Like that's like the self-protective part of ourselves, and it might be why we ultimately end up disconnecting completely and staying in this like chained spot of like putting our mind over our heart and kind of like not trusting ourselves and like lacking self-trust. And a lack of self-trust also is a little bit self-abusive in the end, when we don't have that like full connection to all the parts of ourselves and aren't able to listen to all the parts of ourselves. I'm totally going off. I'm totally channeling, I guess. I don't know. So anyway, to bring it back to the Magician, I'm just talking about this energy is like kind of about you healing yourself, and then part of it is like you bring in, so like the Magician has all the elements, right? She has the sword, she has the pentacles, she has the cups, and she has the wands. And the heart, I would say it's definitely kind of a watery energy, and I would also say maybe it's fire too, like wands, which is your element, Aries, the passion, And I feel like if you've been in your mind space, then you're putting like material concerns and thoughts ahead of trusting the water and the fire and the passion, which is in your inherent nature, right? Strength is Leo, that's a fire sign too. So I think if you've been kind of neglecting this part of yourself, you've been neglecting like half of your power. And that's like kind of where we started, was like not trusting yourself and being kind of out of balance. So I feel like there's like a lot of opportunity to heal this month, and I think all of it has to do with like listening to this part of yourself that you've been neglecting, and really rethinking about, not even rethinking, refeeling, right? Like refeeling your way towards wholeness. Being willing to sit with what comes up in the heart, and being willing to kind of, I think, also be with the parts of yourself that are scared. Because the devil, I think if you're in self-destructive patterns, like the devil can pertain to addictions. So it's like if you're drinking a lot, if you're whatever a lot, if you're kind of like numbing the pain, what are you numbing? You're numbing this fear, this pain, this like the parts of you that are just like totally not in alignment anymore. But okay, I do feel like though, because strength is here and the magician is here, it's like this month you are healing it. You're stepping back into the heart. You're like, I'm sorry, heart. I'm sorry I haven't been listening to you. I'm sorry that like I discredited you. I'm sorry for all the times in the past that like I didn't trust you and that I didn't listen to you, and I want to have a better relationship with you. This is you having a better, by you I mean you and you, like you having a better relationship with yourself. You acknowledging that like your heart literally has information in a scientific way. If your mind, your analytical mind needs to know that. That's what I'm talking about, like the heart having its own stored like cell memory, right? It's like a different brain, if you need to think of it that way, to like kind of start that relationship. And I think when you get all those elements, then it's just like that, the field of yourself, like when you're more whole, when you're kind of like listening to all the parts of yourself, particularly perhaps this part of you that you've been neglecting, and having the strength to feel your vulnerability, the strength to feel your feelings, the strength to acknowledge that you're scared, the strength to like to redevelop self-trust, the strength to kind of, face the lion part of you that lashes out, and to like not tame it, but to just be gentle and nurturing with it, and to trust that like it's that you're not going to hurt yourself anymore, that you can trust yourself. Then I think there's just like all of this, it's just kind of like you can make things happen in a new way, where your life is just starting to kind of like flow and happen, and where you're like leading with a little more confidence too, because you're like, all right, I'm not neglecting myself in the ways that I've been kind of doing so for a long time. Like I'm not self-harming anymore. Maybe for me, I realized, like, to bring it back to addictions, I really, for a while I struggled with alcohol, but like I haven't had any in a while, and it's like not been a problem. Alan Watts talks about this. I don't bring up Alan Watts very often, but Alan Watts was talking about how like if you want to beat the devil, don't announce to the devil what it is that you're gonna do. So his example is like, if you want to like quit alcohol, don't tell everyone like, hey, I'm gonna quit alcohol, because then it like creates this like idea where now you're battling the addiction of the alcohol. He's like, just like let it slip under the rug, where like one day you stop and you don't mention it and you don't make a big deal about it, and then you're done, right? Like in terms of like being chained to this, you don't like go like, hey, I'm leaving, devil, like bye, because then it's like now the devil's gonna fight you to like get you back on this post. You're just kind of sneak away. So there is that kind of vibe going on too, where like I don't know that this needs to be this announced thing. Another thing I was going to say about like addictions is just, for me, I realized like alcohol is not actually my problem. It's a symptom of a deeper problem, right? And like these are symptoms the addictions are symptoms of being disconnected from the heart. When you're connected with the heart, you don't want it anymore. Like, usually you just don't want it anymore. Like, it's not a problem because you're in full alignment with yourself, you're in connection, you're in wholeness. And so the reason why you were with the devil was out of the fear, but when you've like conquered the fear and you're like back in your heart space and your wholeness and like you're trusting yourself again, then you're not afraid, and then you're not turning to some of the old habits. So I feel like also this is like kind of you, by returning to your heart and reconnecting with your heart, you're also kind of maybe addressing a lot of like symptoms of things that have been like not in alignment with the Magician. Like, I think about like if you tried to manifest but you didn't have all your elements, then it was just always going to be harder than when you had all the elements at your disposal and could like kind of create the alchemy that you can only create when you have all 4 elements mastered, per a la like Avatar the Last Airbender, right? Like, for him to defeat the bad guy in the end, he needed all 4 elements, and it was going to be a lot harder if he had only mastered 2 of them. So this is all about kind of getting into balance, but getting into balance by reconnecting with your vulnerability, your heart, your inner knowing, your desires, your what you care about, and being willing to admit about what you care about. 10 of Wands in reverse, things get a lot easier. As I was talking about with the Magician, when you're in wholeness and balance and like have all of you available to you, things are just not an uphill battle quite as much as they maybe have been in the past, because you're not like fighting with yourself either. I mean, with the devil, this is a little bit of like you fighting with yourself. Not that the devil is necessarily anything externally other than just the parts of you that, again, it feels like a lack of self-trust, a lack of feeling like this is safe, a lack of feeling like if you let this happen that like something bad isn't gonna happen. And the Hanged One, I think, is patience, surrender too. I mean, I really get like a strong surrender vibe with this, which is like yeah, like, I mean, I think when I'm talking about surrendering and kind of letting go, I'm talking about part of the reason why maybe you get in a headspace or a mind space is because that feels like where you can control everything. But I think stepping into the heart and being fully vulnerable is kind of accepting that you don't control everything, and accepting that, yes, I mean, scary things can happen, but they don't happen or not happen because you're not in the heart. So for example, like, you care about something. I don't want to, you care about, like, I don't know, you care about, sorry, oh my god, like, I'm doing it. Now I'm even scared to say what I care about. Okay. You care about, your family member, right? Just keep it very generic. You care about your family member, but, like, caring about your family member is hard because they could get hurt. Something bad could happen to them. They could make a mistake. They're precious to you, right? So it's like you don't want to let anything bad happen to them. So maybe you're like a little controlling of them. Maybe you kind of tell them what they should and shouldn't do. Maybe you don't trust them because they're so important to you that you feel that if you're not constantly controlling them and telling them what to do and like overprotecting them, that something scary could happen, and that would be awful, and that would be the worst, and you couldn't live with yourself. So you kind of micromanage their every move. But it's not healthy. This devil is not healthy. It's out of balance, and it ultimately disconnects you from that actual connection where you're not really fully loving them because you're loving them conditionally. You're loving them in a way where you're loving them only when certain conditions are met. And when they don't meet them, then you're like, it just isn't in balance. It isn't in harmony. It is out of balance. and it is based off of fear. So when you re-enter your heart, you're like, I love this person, I care about them so much that like part of me caring about them is giving them their freedom, me surrendering this control that I've been pretending that I have. I don't. And it's me giving it up to God and trusting that like they're going to be safe, like they're precious to me, but like part of me loving them is accepting that like they get to make their own choices and that I don't know what's going to happen. But also, you know, maybe that like sense of like fake control you thought you had, it created a lot of stress and strain on that relationship where there was just like a lot of resentment and lack of connection. And now that you're able to kind of like let go of the burden of this pretend illusion of control you thought you had, or like protection or whatever, and kind of just having the strength to say like, well, we're gonna just like have this faith and like kind of, you know, enjoy the moment and be present and enjoy our connection and kind of like, again, let go, let God, surrender, see what happens. Then I think there's a lot more harmony and like a lot of like opportunity and kind of new growth and new beginnings and new like kind of developments, and the connection can go deeper with this person and things can move forward and there can kind of be new beginning. Like it just feels like when you can release this false sense of control and enter your heart and allow yourself to be vulnerable and accept that part of being vulnerable is knowing that you don't have full control and that anything can happen, but that's life, but you trust and have faith in the best possible outcomes and really try to enjoy that moment, then everything just feels a lot better and it flows and like good things happen and you're able to enjoy that sense of like connection that like is what makes life very valuable and beautiful and wonderful, and you're kind of just like happier overall. So that's like September's vibes for you, Aries. It's healing, which is like this very deep healing that I think brings in a new way of looking at the world and relationships and makes it all the more sweeter. So I love you, and I'll see you again in October. Bye.